Good afternoon. It's a great privilege for me to welcome you to the University of Scranton and to this most important day in the life of our university. I want to especially thank Patricia and Ed Leahy, very good friends, who have kept this alive for 19 years. And by this, I mean an incredibly mission-centered activity that we can share not only with people all around our country, but increasingly an even wider audience. I'm told this is the biggest event in the course of 19 years, and fittingly so. Most importantly, I want to thank you for the great work that you do for people who need some special attention and who have full potential to lead outstanding human lives. You help them realize that potential day in and day out. And for that, I and all of us are very grateful. I hope you enjoy your time here. I want to extend my thanks to Dean Deb Pellegrino and to all those who worked with her to make this such a great success. God bless you. God bless your work. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Father Pillars. I'm Lori Brooke. I am the other co-chair. You've met my colleague, Dr. Dolgan, earlier today. And on behalf of our provost, Dr. Jeff Gingrich, our dean, Deborah Pellegrino, our ACE hubs, our signature projects, and our conference committee, I'm pleased to welcome you to our keynote session with Jose Velasco. Jose is the Vice President of Product Development for the worldwide software giant SAP. He's also the Ambassador for Autism at Work, a global SAP program. And most importantly, he is the father of 2 sons who are on the autism spectrum. You may, if you were with us last year, you may remember that Jose's wife, Dea, and his son, Jose Jr., were our keynote speakers, and they did a wonderful job. So, Jose, we're happy to have you here. We hope everyone's enjoying the conference. For this session, you're welcome to put your questions in the box on your screen. We'll have time towards the end of the session for questions and answers. And now, please join me in a warm welcome for Jose Velasco. Jose?
Thank you very much. Let me go ahead and get set up here. And first and foremost, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, depending on where you are in your time zones. I want to thank Scranton University not only for putting this event together, which is a wonderful community impact event, but also for the opportunity that they have granted me to share a little bit about the Autism at Work program. And as Lori said, the opportunity that was granted to my son last year to speak about his journey, his life on the autism spectrum. What I would like to do today is share a little bit of the perspective of our program. But before we do that, I also want to tell you a little bit about SAP. You heard Lori talk about the SAP Autism at Work program. SAP is a very, very large company, software company. We are in 190 countries. We employ close to 100,000 individuals worldwide, and approximately 75% of the transactions that make up the world's GDP touch an SAP system. So you can get an idea on the level of responsibility that we have with the companies that we serve, our customers, and the incredible amount of value that they produce worldwide utilizing some of our systems. So for today, what I would like to do is first and foremost, talk a little bit about the Autism at Work initiative, talk about the topics of innovation and purpose. It's not oftentimes that large enterprises have an opportunity to have an impact on not only our employee base, but outside in the community. So as part of this segment, if you will, I will be talking about the background of the program, a little bit about the history, what is the motivation, some of the benefits, and also some very inspiring stories from some of our colleagues who are on the autism spectrum. But before we do that, I wanted to share a little bit about our journey. I say our journey is my family's journey with autism. As Lori said, we have a family that is on the autism spectrum, not only my kids, but also we have extended family, cousins, nephews that are also on the autism spectrum. So it's a topic that has been with us in our personal life for a long, long time. Lastly, I want to talk to you about the people. I think that this type of program would not be possible without the people that are involved. I know we have approximately 800 to 1,000 people register for the conference. So this presentation is for you, greatly using this opportunity, my personal opportunity, to thank you for the things that you have done. You know, our kids are successful because they have been accompanied in their journey by great people. I know that we have a lot of folks from vocational rehabilitation, we have parents, we have companies out there that are social innovators. A big kudos to you and a big and heartfelt thank you for everything that you do. So let me, what I would like to do today is share what I would call a journey in pictures. I will do my very best to describe the pictures for those participants that are visually impaired or blind. So bear with me. I will try to be as descriptive as possible. My hope is that the story, which is basically what we are sharing today, a story, is solid enough such that the pictures would not be absolutely necessary. But for those of you who are visual thinkers, these are good aids. I am a visual thinker, so I enjoy this. One more thing, wanted to share that many of the pictures that you see here, including this one, were taken by my son. Okay, so very, very proud of that. Let me start with the first picture. This is a picture of our kids. This was taken around 1995, 1996, right around the time when they were both diagnosed as being on the autism spectrum. PDD-NOS was the classification that we got for our son, and Asperger's for our daughter. And back in the day, I mean, please keep in mind that this was 1995 and 1996. There was really not a lot of material, a lot of supports out there. So it took us quite a bit of effort to learn about autism, and it was a difficult moment for us as a family, simply because we, of course, like many parents out there, had not contemplated that we would have two kids on the autism spectrum. Over the next few years, my wife basically stayed home. She was an engineer by trade, an agricultural engineer. She was going to go back to graduate school, so we had all these great plans. But we knew that it was necessary for us to put as much energy and as much of our intellect in our heart as we could to ensure that the kids would be okay in the future. So there were many supports. There were many IEPs, individualized education plans, that took place. And I can say that without the selfless involvement here of my wife, it would have been a very different story. The other thing I wanted to mention is that over the years, we started getting our kids involved in as many activities as we could. Jose had a very strong fondness for airplanes and trains, and also for scouting. Okay, so we got him started with scouts. It was one of the best decisions that we could have taken, because we happened to join a troop where there were another 3 autistic kids, and all of them actually became Eagle Scouts after a number of years. So we felt that we were in a group with great supports, with great parents, that allowed for Jose to be comfortable. As many of you know, if you want to earn the rank of Eagle Scout, at least back in the day, you had to complete approximately 23 merit badges. And I will talk to you a little bit about how close we got to that point, actually wrapping up the last merit badge within, we'll say, about 10, 15 hours of his 18th birthday. Jose had an incredible interest for trains since he was about 3 years old. That interest still out there today. So he rides the trains. We go out on train vacations. He has a train collection. He is a volunteer. in trains, okay, or anything that has to do with trains. Here's this picture that you see in the middle is of him when he's about 12 years old. And I remember I was actually 14 years old. This was a time when we were trying to find activities for him to get more social, to go out there and be with more people. And we found the Austin Steam Train Association, a super, super inclusive organization that opened the doors to us. And he became a car attendant. So he got a uniform and everything. So did I. So we both were servers in a car, and we made the announcements, and we would go and take the train for 1 hour and now 1 hour back. And Jose got his train fixed, and I made sure that he was learning some new things. On our second trip, okay, we arrived, and he and I were supposed to be manning the same car. And it so happened to be that the person that was in the next car did not show up. So they immediately gave Jose a microphone, and they gave me another one, and they said, you guys are going to split up, and Jose's going to go in one car and I'm going to go in a different car. So he was supposed to make the announcements, which he did brilliantly. He stuttered a little bit, took him about 10 minutes, but in the end, he was out there in front of the community, doing what he loved best, which was being on a train and being a volunteer. And that was a transformative experience for him. He made a lot of friends. By the way, most of his friends were 70 and 80 years old. A lot of people that were retired that love railroads, but in this hobby, there's no age. And he had just a fantastic time in the railroad. This hobby continued for many, many years. Here's a picture of him, quote unquote, being chased by a locomotive with all of his Boy Scout friends. This was a great moment for him, being integrated and being part of the end-to-end story, if you will. He was doing okay in school. He had a lot of supports during those years, but he was also enjoying life outside, and we made a special effort to make sure that he was out and about. The next thing is high school, okay, and I think that one of the highlights of his career in high school was his interest in wrestling. So when he came in freshman year, he told me he wanted to be a wrestler. I was not exactly sure why he wanted to be a wrestler, where he picked up the idea, but we went to talk to the coach. And we were a little hesitant because he was not necessarily at the top of his athletic ability. He could do a lot of things, but being an athlete was something that he had really not tried out before. So we talked to the coach, and we shared with him that he was on the spectrum. And the coach pointed out deep into the gym into a kid that was wrestling. I'll never forget it. He was wearing red shorts. And he said, "Can you see that kid over there?" And we said, yeah. Well, he came in and he didn't know anything about wrestling, and he's blind. He lost almost every match the first year, but now he's winning. And that was something that was incredible for us, because we found a coach that was interested in teaching him how to do it, and in an environment that was conducive for my son to be included. So we were super excited. The problem was that he was, again, getting to know how to wrestle when a lot of the kids knew already how to do it. Well, the first year he lost every single match, okay? And what you see here is a picture of him sitting by himself after what I think was one of the last defeats that he had on the first year. I don't know about you, but if it was me, I probably would have maybe picked a different sport or go somewhere else. So, dad being dad, I kind of went the back route, and I talked to the coach, and I said, look, things don't appear to be working out really well. Is it possible at all that he can become like a student supporter, or somebody that films, because they also always film the matches, somebody who's part of the team but is not a wrestler? And he said, absolutely, he can be a team manager. That's the name of the role. And he can come in and he can help me with the paperwork. He can be involved, helping us carry the equipment. So I went back to my son and I told him, son, I think there's another opportunity for you in the team as a team manager. I mean, that's a good deal. And he said, and I will never forget it, he looked at me and he said, you don't get it. I'm going to be a wrestler. So he asked me, what do I need to do to get better? In that summer, basically, my son started running more, started becoming stronger. He put a lot of energy into this, okay? And in the second season, he finally scored that big win. And even though he did not win all the matches, this was, again, one of the huge moments for him during high school. He won that match, and he was part of the team. He was part of the team. So he started traveling with the team. He started going out to different places. The experience, again, was end-to-end, was very, very, very inclusive of different aspects, including social life, including being part of the team, including the traveling and preparations and basically adulting, okay? So again, it was a very, very special moment for us. If you are interested, I'm putting here on the screen, this is a link to a tiny url.com/Jose Velasco that you can find later on and hear the whole story, which I think it was very well done. The next thing is, he found a girlfriend, okay, in high school, and they've been dating for about 10 years now. So things were, jiving, they were coming together. He was being successful. Academically, he was in what we call the minimum plan at the high school. But, he graduated, he wrapped up his high school. And of course, as you can imagine, we were super proud as parents of all his accomplishments. Right around this time as well, he wrapped up his Eagle Scout. Okay, on the last day, he finished that last merit badge that I was talking about earlier, and we were just incredibly proud of him. But then we asked ourselves, what happens now? High school is over. Is he going to go to junior college or college? Is he going to get a job? It was a very, very difficult time for us. We started asking ourselves the question, what happens when we are gone? When my wife and I are no longer here? This is no longer high school with all of the supports that he had, all these wonderful coaches and scout leaders and teachers. All of that was going away. And, we started panicking, and saying, what's going to happen? We came to the realization that we needed for him to be independent, and what really gets you to the level of independence that you need is a job. Okay, not everybody that is on the autism spectrum can carry a job. There's going to be many people that are going to be depending on others, for day-to-day activities in their lives. We're fortunate that our son had some possibility of getting a job, and we wanted to explore that. So, the first gig that he got was at the Home Depot. Okay, they're just a great company. He actually applied for a job over the phone. He has a speech hearing delay, so he got that interview on the phone, and quite frankly, the interview it didn't go well. Okay, I was, as you can imagine, on the other side of the phone, listening in, and he was not able to process the information fast enough. So the interview was short; it didn't go anywhere. He was disappointed. He applied for a supermarket. I can tell you, he was the only kid with a tie applying for a bagger job that day. He didn't get that one either. So one day we drove from Austin to Dripping Springs, Texas. We live in Austin. And we took that initiative because we said, let's try to find a Home Depot that is not too big. And this town has one that is not very large. And we had heard through the grapevine that the manager from that store was very friendly to hiring Eagle Scouts. So I told my son, let's just go out there and knock the door and talk to the manager and see what he says. So I drove him out there, 24 miles. We got there, and he asked for the manager, and he presented himself, introducing himself as an Eagle Scout. And he came out about 15 minutes later, and just looking straight, not a smile or anything like that. And I said, what happened? And he said, I got the job. I start next Monday. Okay. And it was, of course, his first job, first paid job. You can imagine how happy I was. A few months later, I went to pick him up. Yes, we drove 23 miles one way and 23 miles on the way back. It was 46 miles per day, but it was a job. It was his job. And in that day, I arrived a little bit earlier. So I went to the cashier. I brought in my propane tank for a refill. And I went to the cashier. I paid ahead of time. And then the cashier radioed in the PA system, we need somebody to go and open up the cage. So my son arrives with this huge bag of keys. And he looks at me and he's like, "What are you doing here, Dad?" And I said, "I'm a customer. I'm buying a propane tank." Okay. He said, "Okay, I'll open the cage for you." So we were out there. I brought my tank. I put it in the ground. There's a picture I take of him putting it out. He stands up. He looks at me and he says, "May I see your receipt?" And in that day, I thought, here's a great benefit of hiring folks on the autism spectrum. They're loyal employees. They're going to be going by the book. And I thought, he's going to make a great Home Depot employee. So he was there for about 3 years. I'll wrap up the story where he is right now towards the end of the presentation. So at that time, again, we were very concerned about what would happen because we thought that he would be able to do more things other than getting his first initial job at the Home Depot. We encouraged him to sign up for the community college, which he did. And he spent about a year taking remedial classes for reading and writing and mathematics, because basically when he graduated, he didn't have a college level education, and he had to take a lot of remedials in order to mitigate that. And at that time, something happened. Personally, I found something that I was not looking for. At the time, I was vice president of product management at SAP, super busy schedule. But then one morning, I got up and I read my email, and I just could not believe what this email had in it. It said something to the effect of SAP is launching an Autism at Work program. And I just could not connect my company, SAP, with autism, but there had been a blueprinting of a project to hire people on the autism spectrum, and this was the result of that. We presented this project in front of about 15,000 customers at one of our largest customer events in 2013. So as you can imagine, I look at this, I call my wife, I share with her the screen and the email, and I said, look, this is what's happening in the company. And I could not wait long enough to start drafting emails to our chief diversity officer, telling her that I wanted to help in some capacity that I had experienced. And I kind of stretched the truth a little bit because, I told her that I had about 40 years of experience with autism. And well, if everybody on the autism spectrum is different, as they say, you meet one person with autism, you met one person with autism, and I had 2 kids. It was, if you add them up, there's about 40 years altogether, right? So anyway, I got, quote unquote, my interview with our chief diversity officer. And I said, I really want to be part of this, okay? And then she said, we would welcome your support from the business because we are diversity and inclusion. And ultimately, the business is the one that is going to be adopting this program. And what happened next, I reached out to my senior vice president and I told him, his name is Helmut Glanzer. I said, Helmut, I really need to do this, okay? And Helmut knew me from many years ago, okay? I've been with the company already for about 15 years. And he told me, I know this is important for you. Why don't we carve 30% of your time so that you can help drive the program in the United States? And then the other 70% you can, continue with your regular job. And then he winked at me and he said, you and I know that you're not going to have one job at 70% and another one at 30%. You're going to have 2 jobs at 100%. You're going to have your passion job and your regular job. Okay. And he was absolutely right. So for the next few months, I operated in that mode of being a volunteer until one of our board members at SAP reached out to me and said, I understand that you were working on this. I had already met this board member many years back, and he had a personal affinity with the topic of autism. And he said, would you consider doing this on a full-time basis? And as you can imagine, this was one of the best days in my career. And I said, yes. Okay. And that's how I started co-leading in 2014, the program globally for SAP. So again, this is part of our Autism at Work announcement. Very, very special moment for all of us who were involved in this community, and finally seeing that there was a light there. It was a moment where I really thought, gee, I don't have to really change my son too much. Okay, maybe through this program, we change the perspective of other people, kind of a yin-yang thing, kind of a we meet in the middle thing, where we don't ask autistic people to do all the heavy lifting and try to become neurotypical. Maybe by training other people to understand where people on the autism spectrum, people like my son, would have a better chance. And that's how I got started with the program. Oftentimes people ask us, why did SAP decide to hire people on the autism spectrum? And the reality is that we want to attract the best talent that we can from our industry. And talent comes in many, many different shapes and forms, including, of course, people that are neurodiverse. We know that we innovate in companies like ours, are high tech, because of our differences and not in spite of them. And we have to bring a different perspective to our creative processes. If everybody thinks the same way, there is going to be no innovation. Alan Kay, a very famous computer scientist, once said that a different perspective is worth 80 IQ points when you're problem solving. So we thought it would be important for us to include the neurodiverse perspective in not only our creative processes, but on every process of the organization. We wanted to tap into underutilized source of talent. We talked to some universities that would tell us we have 200 students in the autism spectrum, we have 125, we have 300. And then we talked to another universities that told us they have 600. And we said, all of these folks are going to be graduating. All of these folks are going to be looking for a job. Why don't we try to create the processes that accommodate systematically the inclusion of folks that are neurodiverse, people on the autism spectrum? So we wanted to capture the special skills of people on the spectrum as well. Not everybody is the same. Some people in the spectrum have skill A, some other people have skill B, okay? But we were hearing in the early days that there were folks on the spectrum that had a gifted memory, the ability to see patterns and systems and data, ability to focus and concentrate in tasks over long periods of time. And we thought we could take advantage of those skills in addition to whatever formal education or experience the folks on the spectrum would have. For us, retention, being in high tech, is extremely important. Right now, of course, because of COVID, we're having an issue with unemployment. But if we look back prior to this time, you'll see companies, for example, in the Bay Area that have a turnover rate of about 17 or 18%. That means that every year, 17% of your workforce, your intellectual capital walks out the door, and then you have to renew it with a cost ranging from 40% to 100% of the yearly salary of the people that are leaving, particularly if they're well established in the company. So there was a business case for retention as well. Lastly, we did it because we can. We felt that we had the ability, if we were able to produce some of the most sophisticated software solutions in the world, that we would be able to create a different path to success for people that are on the autism spectrum. So today the program is in 15 countries, multiple continents, geographies. We started the program with a pilot in 5 locations that included India, Germany, Ireland, and the United States, and I think it was Canada as well. And we had good success, good traction there. And we also learned about the social interpretation of autism, the community interpretation of autism in those locations. Great experience for us before we started expanding the program. We currently have approximately 175 folks on the spectrum that are full and part-time jobs, internships. We have contractors, we have vocational training, particularly in Germany. And then we have a group of self-identified folks on the autism spectrum. Last year, we had 17 folks not only in 2019, but throughout the last couple of years, people that self-identify as being on the autism spectrum. But all in all, we have provided more than 600 opportunities. Some people come in and take an opportunity as an intern or as a contractor. We also expanded the program to include educational opportunities for high school students as well in the United States, and the program had great success. So all in all, the umbrella of opportunities is around 600, past and present, and includes, again, full and part-time jobs, internships, contractors, vocational training, and self-identified folks. The question that we get all the time is, what are folks on the spectrum good at? And I think that I thought I had an idea when we started the program, but I guess right now the answer is we haven't found a job yet for which we have found a candidate matching the skills where the job has not been fulfilled, okay? So let me start off by saying that many companies, maybe including some folks at SAP, started with the idea that folks on the autism spectrum want to work on repetitive tasks, or people on the spectrum would like to work alone, or people on the spectrum mainly work on technical tasks. After all, we are a technology company, right? Well, the reality is very different. You know, people want to work as part of teams. Sometimes they have challenges with how do I do that? How do I integrate? How do I'm part of the team? And that's what we do in the Autism at Work program, you know, provide those accommodations in education and training programs. Today, we have 29 different roles. This is just a small sampler of the roles, and they are represented in every division or board area, as we call it at SAP. We have people that are working in human resources, people that are part of the services organization, engineering, office of the CEO. I mean, basically every division is represented. If you look at this bottom part of the slide, you will see 4 dimensions that kind of classify the jobs, okay? We have some in the green line that are jobs that have very well-defined rules. On the other extreme, there's going to be some jobs that are flexible thinking. On the left, you have autonomous type of jobs where you're basically doing things on your own. And then on the other side, you have those that are collaborative. And then you have those that are procedural, task-oriented. And then those that are very creative. And then lastly, you have those that have a very fixed known schedule, to those that require a lot of flexibility. So when we started the program, our eye was on trying to find roles on this left side, okay, of the spectrum, well-defined rules, autonomous, procedural, task-oriented, fixed and known schedules. But very quickly, we started finding people that did not fit that mold. One of my colleagues on the autism spectrum said, look, in your material, you say that you're looking for jobs that are repetitive tasks. And she told me, I play the guitar, I am a software developer, I'm a creative person. If you ask me to do repetitive things, I'm going to suffer a lot, okay? So as you can see here, we have 2 types or 2 profiles of jobs. One is the task-oriented type of job that, as I mentioned earlier, we do have some of those in some locations. But then we have other types of jobs that are creative, like software developers, that require the flexible thinking, being collaborative, creative, and with the fixed and known schedule. So we have a variety of jobs across the board in a variety of different personalities of folks on the autism spectrum as well, okay? So the question that we get asked all the time, why are these only professional jobs? And the second question is, where are the other jobs? I want to take a step back and share with you that the reason why we do this program is not because of a charity or a token job. We do this because our colleagues on the autism spectrum add value to our company every day. Our core business is to build software, the best software in the world, and the processes that support that. So we have HR, we have purchasing, we have sales, et cetera, et cetera. So we hire people in our core business, which is on the technical roles, data scientists, mathematicians, computer programmers, et cetera, et cetera. We also hire people in support areas like human resources. But in the end, these are jobs that are part of our core business. My hope and my call to action for anybody who's here, who owns a company or who's part of a company whose core business is not high tech. If you are a bakery, if you are a flower shop, give somebody on the autism spectrum an opportunity. You will find a diligent, loyal, and dedicated worker. And again, if every company out there focused on their core business and brought people into their core business, I think that this would be a very different world. We're often asked about the process. How do you hire people on the autism spectrum? Well, we have a 5-step process. And we have what we call the demand determination. We try to understand where the voids are, what type of roles we're going to hire, maybe 30 programmers in this location, or 5 data scientists there, et cetera, et cetera. So we got an idea as to where those are. Then we partner with NGOs. For example, in the Philadelphia area, we partner with the ARC of Philadelphia. In the Bay Area, we partner with the Vocational Rehabilitation Department, in addition to other NGOs like Evo Libre as well. And do the candidate search. We find individuals that fit those characteristics that we are looking for. And then we have what we call a pre-employment training. We call it the Enterprise Readiness Academy. I want to make sure that I communicate this correctly. This is a pre-employment training program that can last 2, 4, or 6 weeks. In the United States, we utilize this 6-week footprint. And this is a free training. We partner with our friends from vocational rehabilitation. We partner with NGOs like, again, Neurodiversity in the Workplace, the ARC, to help us deliver this training. So part of the material is delivered by SAP employees. Part of it is delivered by the NGOs. And we covered all kinds of curriculum there. Very basic things like how to look at somebody else's calendar to send a meeting request so that you can be part of the enterprise protocol, if you want to call it that, how to participate in meetings. We touch on topics related to social activities in the enterprise. As you can imagine, it's a very, very rich curriculum that spans 6 weeks. After that, the individual wraps up the training. They walk away with what we call a business profile and also a personal profile. And with experience from having been at SAP for some time, the idea behind this is that we increase the confidence level, minimize the stress and anxiety. So when they start applying for jobs in step number 4, jobs that are open to anybody, that they do it with full confidence and supported by the Autism at Work program. For those people that get a job at SAP, we go through what we call the onboarding and the support circle. And basically, we train the teams, we provide them autism awareness training. And this is the time when individuals get, their laptop, their desk, and well, in today's day, they get a Zoom connection, right? But in the old days, if we want to call them that, that's when they get basically all of the equipment, they sign up for insurance, et cetera, et cetera. Once the employee is hired, we create what we call an Autism at Work support circle. There's 2 circles, as a matter of fact. The first one is the workplace support circle that consists of a team manager, an HRBP, a team buddy. These individuals would have received autism awareness training. And then in addition to that, we have, we're going the other way, the Autism at Work mentors. This is what I consider to be the crown jewel of the program. These are employee volunteers that basically want to expand the personal network of our new colleagues on the autism spectrum. In addition to that, we have what we call a job and life skills coach. This is somebody who is funded for the first 90 days by the Department of Rehabilitation, Vocational Rehabilitation Department, and is part of the NGO. In our case, it can be an entity like the ARC, Neurodiversity in the Workplace, or companies like Evo Libre. And then there is on the right-hand side a personal support circle. So that includes family and extended personal support network, or a personal counselor. And this job and life skills coach becomes a proxy between the private and the workplace life of the employee. And so far, it's worked out really, really great. So let's talk a little bit about business benefits in what I would call social profit. Companies like ours, if you read what is our purpose and our mission, it's not to make software. If you go out and Google SAP, you're going to find that our vision is to make the world run better and to improve people's lives. It's not, again, to build software solutions. Yes, it's part of how we get there, but we have a very, very strong emphasis on value for the community. Okay, and this is where this type of program fits in. Yes, we benefit, as you will see here in just a little bit, tremendously from this type of program, the skills that we gain and the integration of people and just being a better company, but also there's a benefit also socially for the community as well. So I'm going to start with the benefits part, and I'm going to say that there's 4 key areas. One is in the product side. The other one is in human capital management, which is HR, in trying to find the best talent we can. Our relationship with customers and partner, and then of course the social purpose that we have. And they are not isolated. These things touch each other. Okay, if you have an impact on one side, it's going to have the impact in an adjacent area. So we have innovation. Yes, we have had colleagues on the autism spectrum that have filed for patents, people that are creating new things, and super proud of that achievement. Quality, yes, we have colleagues that are working in things like software testing, with significant, great results. And then we have productivity gains in some areas where we require a certain level of specialization and high level of diligence and focus and concentration. Then we have employee engagement, attraction, and retention. This is a human capital part, but also it touches on our relationship with our customers. I have an opportunity to talk to SAP customers and tell them about the program. We have shared the program. Oh my gosh, it's been close to 1,700 entities. That includes employers, universities, schools. You name it. We've shared it with a lot of people. And again, that establishes a great connection. Then we have, of course, the customer and partner angle. We want to be perceived by our customers as a company that may have a shared vision with them. We find that a lot of our customers are customers that want to have that social impact, and it allows us to connect with them in a completely different way, well beyond a business transaction and more on the purpose side. We have community impact. We'll talk a little bit about that here in the next couple of slides. And then, of course, the most important thing in my eyes, which is the impact on lives. So moving on to our next presentation, slide. We've had a great degree of involvement with the community. We've talked to thousands of people about the SAP Autism at Work program. Recently, I learned that we had approximately 1,800 to 2,000 editorials. Editorials, television segments like CBS Sunday Morning or the Wall Street Journal or Inc. magazine or Psychology Today, and when I talk to my colleagues in media relationships at SAP, I asked them, what's the reach? How many people have seen this message of autism at work? And we cannot tell you who read the message, but what we can tell you is what is the circulation of those publications that where there's been an article on or a television segment on autism at work. And it was a mind-blowing 7.1 billion combined circulation from all of this tier 1, tier 2 media. Okay, so the message is out there for sure. Okay, we continue to promote it and continue to talk to companies, and more companies are implementing their own autism hiring programs. We also have been extremely fortunate to partner with companies like EY, JP Morgan Chase, Microsoft in the production of what we call the playbook. Today, there is something that is called the Autism at Work Roundtable. We also have the Autism at Work Pledge at SAP. And for example, in the roundtable, there's about 30 something companies right now and about another 30 in the pipeline that are starting to implement programs like this. These are thought leaders, these are great companies. And I encourage you to Google that, the roundtable. It is housed at this Disability In website where you can find additional information. Big kudos to our friends at Microsoft for having helped launch this roundtable. We've also had a significant number of opportunities on the academic side to write and be part of events at very recognized educational institutions. Of course, today we're speaking here at Scranton, and this is one more great opportunity to amplify this message. We also launched something that we are very proud of, and it's called the Autism at Work Summit. We launched it at SAP in 2016. And we noticed that there were a lot of people out there that were talking about doing something in the space of autism. And I was having 100 conversations with 100 different people. And we thought, why don't we get everybody in one location to get to know each other? And we invited about 230 people for the very first Autism at Work Summit. And I believe that there were 2 people that didn't show up. Okay, so the people that we brought in to have these conversations, including universities like Cornell, like Drexel universities. We had employers, again, like Ernst & Young, SAP, Hewlett Packard, et cetera, et cetera. And that's what got this thing off the ground. Today, the Autism at Work Summit has taken place at Microsoft. Now we have an East and a West. So Microsoft is handling the West side, SAP with other partners like EY, JP Morgan Chase is handling the one on the East. But also this summit got started in Argentina, in Australia, in New Zealand, and in India. Okay, so the message is out. People are doing this on a global basis. I mean, things are looking great. Let's talk a little bit about people, because in the end, it's actually the people that make these programs work. And I had the great fortune of having cross paths with just incredible individuals. I mentioned to you, folks in vocational rehabilitation, people from NGOs of all sizes. The partner that we had in Porto Alegre in Brazil, very small 2-person outfit. We've had conversations with small companies that basically provide this type of services. We share what we do with anybody and try to learn from a lot of people. But, I mentioned earlier that a different perspective is worth 80 IQ points. And what I hope to do here is to share the perspective that we've gained from hiring our colleagues on the autism spectrum. I only have 4 stories here to share with you, but we have countless other stories. The slide is not big enough to include everybody. So I'm going to share some basics here, if you will, and some people that I think have done incredibly well in our program. Let me start off with Mark Jessen. On the very left, I had an opportunity to meet Mark in 2014. He came to SAP right around the time when we had basically brought in the first pilot cohort. There were 7 people that joined SAP. He came to the great opening that we had in Palo Alto about the program, and he said, "Here's my resume. Please, keep me in mind for the next cohort." So we patiently waited about 8 to 10 months until we had the next cohort. We called Mark up, and he came in. And at the time, we had a process by which we would bring people in, not for an interview, but it was kind of what we call Pizza and Robots Day. And it was a day for us to socialize, kind of feel comfortable. We would build robots with Legos. This was a Specialisterne methodology, by the way. A great company out there. And basically the idea was to have an opportunity to break the ice and have a conversation so that we could get to know the individual a little bit better and for them to know us better before they were selected for the pre-employment training program, which was 4 weeks back then. So I talked to Mark, and he asked me, "What type of jobs do you have available?" And I said, "We have right now some openings in software testing." And he said, "Does it require programming?" And I said, "Yes, it may, because we're moving away from manual testing to automated testing, and you would probably have to learn how to write some scripts. And he said, look, Jose, I am a networking guy, a networking engineer. I'm not a coder. And I was not really good at it when I was trying to pick up the skill. So to make the story short, I ended up driving Mark that day, and I thought that he had a great skill set. So we found a job that was in the networking department. It was an internal job at SAP. We talked to the person that was responsible for that job in Germany. I said, would you consider opening it up to somebody from the outside? And basically, that's how Mark came into SAP. The one thing that I didn't know back then is that sometime before he had joined SAP, Mark had been homeless. And I don't know about you, but when you have the experience of having a colleague on the autism spectrum that has been homeless, it's very striking. It makes me appreciate my job every day. Sometimes we complain about this and that and about how things are not working out or our job or this. But when I heard about Mark's journey, it really impacted me. And again, this is a different perspective, and it's definitely worth 80 IQ points. Nick Newman is an employee in SAP Argentina. He's in the accounts payable. He's an accounts payable analyst. At SAP, we have a competition or an award that is called the Hasso-Plattner Founders Award. Hasso-Plattner is one of the founders of the company. It is the most prestigious innovator award that we have in the company. Sometimes we have more than 1,000 entries. Many teams apply, so it's not just one person that applies for this. We had a great colleague, Agustina Robles in Argentina, who made it possible for Nicholas to apply with an innovation that he had created. And not to our surprise, he was in 2019 the sole winner of the Hasso-Plattner Founders Award. He traveled to Germany and received this award in front of 5,000 employees. He received the award from the hands of our co-CEOs. So you can imagine the joy that many of us had to see one of our colleagues in the spectrum being honored in this way. We had colleagues like Patrick Piesti, who you see him here speaking at the United Nations to Secretary General Ban Ki-moon and Governor Jack Markell. A year before that, he had been struggling to find a job. He had applied for dozens of jobs, and he had graduated cum laude from the university. And he used to tell me, I just could not understand why I was being bypassed for jobs. So he came to SAP, and he's a project manager. He's been with us for close to 7 years. And then we have Gloria Mendoza. She's a support engineer. Gloria had dual degrees at the university. She's an opera singer, and she's a computer scientist. And amongst the many things that she has done, last year she was a performer. She sang the national anthem in the Monday Night Football NFL game, and he was the recipient of the ELS for Autism Spectrum Award. Is everybody as talented as these four people? No, there's people like me too. Okay, so there's folks that come in and put an honest day's work at SAP and contribute in many different ways. These are four, great examples of people that are, shining stars and that have added a great deal of value to our company, and we're thrilled to have them. We're thrilled to have them. So, as we approach the end of our time, I wanna close the circle and share with you that Jose, my son, continues to like trains. Okay, so we just traveled. You can see him here wearing a mask. We went to Colorado. We drove out there and we took the train with all the precautions that you can imagine. And he is a student in the Austin Community College, where he is one course away from earning his degree in computer science. The 2-year degree is taking him 8 years, but it's going to happen. It's going to happen. He's going to earn it. And just like he earned his driver's license and he was on a driver's permit for 8 years, he is going to conquer college as well. Okay, so we'll see what the next step in his life is. In the meantime, he and his girlfriend continue to enjoy life. And you may remember this picture on the left side, which is of Jose leaning into mom at the very beginning when he was young. I can tell you that over the years, we have learned also to lean on Jose quite a bit. And he's been a great source of comfort for us over the years. And the one last picture that I have that I want to share with you is probably the only one that is in color here. And it's a picture of a note that was handed to me by one of our participants in the autism training program that I mentioned to you, our Enterprise Readiness Academy. He'd had a very, very tough experiences in school and with bullying and so on. And he was doing so great, but he was always reserved. Okay, he was like, is this for real, right? So he handed me this note that you're about to see here, and basically is a note that says, "I want to believe," and I kept it because I think that it's important for all of us to believe that things are going to be better. We are facing difficult situations right now with COVID and other things in our country and worldwide. And I think it's important for us to keep our faith up and to continue to believe that things are going to get better, and they're going to get better also for people that are on the autism spectrum. So I want to thank you for your time. I want to thank you for your attention. And I especially want to thank all of our conference organizers, to Dr. Pellegrino, Dr. Butch, and Dr. Dalgin for giving me the opportunity to share a little bit about our program and be part of this conference. Thank you.
Jose, what can we say? Thank you for sharing your journey. Thank you for sharing stories about your family. Thank you for sharing your work at SAP. And thank you for the love that you bring, the love and the passion for what you're doing and for the difference that you're making. We do have time for maybe 2 quick questions before we wrap up. And one of the questions is from our families and some of what I know we've talked about throughout the day. And that's that, how did you and Dea balance your need to keep your children safe and yet to provide them opportunities where they could learn and grow?
That is a great question, and it's one that when we go back in time and we look at our trajectory, going to a restaurant was a challenge, okay? But we kind of started little by little pushing ourselves because we wanted for them to start getting that exposure if at all possible. There were places that would not be conducive to that. We found the places that would be more friendly to those things. I remember one time I told my wife, I think that we need to go to Disneyland. And she's like, are you crazy, right? We have never flown. And I said, well, there will be a time when they will probably fly, and why don't we try it right now? So we went out to Disneyland, and everything worked out well. The question on finding the balance, I am a believer that everybody can grow. And everybody deserves an opportunity to grow. And we need to provide those opportunities and present them to people. And sometimes they are stretches, okay? Sometimes they're gonna go well beyond the capabilities, but it happens to you and me too. When we get into something, we say, well, maybe I got too big of a bite here, okay? But we owe it to people on the autism spectrum to have those opportunities as well. Yeah.
Beautifully said. Thank you. Thank you for that. And that's how we all grow, by having those opportunities to take risks and succeed, but also sometimes to failure and learn in that failure and to grow stronger because of
Absolutely.
it. So thank you for sharing that. You talked about myths in your presentation, and there are so many myths about what it means to have autism. What would you say to this community of 900 plus, 951 actually, we got the final count now, 951 people who are listening? How would you encourage us to begin to break down these myths in our communities?
I think that everybody is different, and there's going to be some things that apply to one person and another one. I think that we need to talk about everybody who is on the autism spectrum. I believe that we need to create success stories. Okay. I think that there's going to be a time when those people right now that are breaking ground, that are the torch bearers, if you will, that are on the autism spectrum. We see it with our colleagues. They used to be very reserved. Now they're going out and they're talking about their experience. I think it's an incredible time for self-advocacy. We see leaders out there, hopefully he's on the audience here, like Jeff Day, a friend of mine. I mean, I can tell you countless individuals that are on the autism spectrum that are doing a great job. My hope is that we can lean on them and work and try to provide opportunities across the board for everybody on the autism spectrum. Everybody's good at something. We need to find that what that is. You know?
Now, this is a selfish question. Both Rebecca and I, our field is in rehabilitation counseling, and certainly vocational rehabilitation counselors graduate from programs like ours. And we know that there are so many VR counselors in this audience today. What message would you give them in terms of, you know, again, reaching out to employers, and particularly those medium-sized employers and maybe smaller employers that haven't yet started hiring people who are on the spectrum?
My first message is thank you. Okay. Because without people that are committed to this type of activity, nothing would work. Okay. So it does take people that have the heart and the passion to do this. And I find that people that are working in VR services are, you know, fit that group. As far as employers, my recommendation would be to start reaching out to those employers who already have implemented those programs. Start participating in forums like this, where you start connecting with the community of employers that are doing something that works wonderfully in the business side is when you have if I was a VR a person talking to an employer, is I know a company that is doing this, would you be willing to talk to them? And I bet you that you're going to find more than one company, including SAP and Microsoft and others that are in JP Morgan Chase and EY, that are willing to talk to companies, right? That conversation between employers is a very important one. So if our VR friends can start being part of this ecosystem, I think that it would add a significant value for them for sure.
And that reminds me of the VR Net through CSA VR and the work of Kathy West Evans. So many of our VR counselors are out there saying, yeah, okay, we can use this. Kathy's
been a great friend of our programs for many, many years. So big kudos to her for continuing to drive these topics in the VR world.
Yes, and Kathy has a great on-demand collaboration, one of her sessions, and a great personal story. So I'm hoping that people tune into that as well. Jose, again, thank you. We really appreciate your taking the time. We know that there are so many things going on in your life and how busy you are with everything that you're doing. So thank you for being part of the university's conference, our 19th conference. And again, please extend our best to your son. Tell him we look forward to him coming back to Steamtown. And getting to see what's new. Hopefully we'll be back to traveling for our 20th anniversary conference. So again, thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Deb.
And in closing, I just have a few things that I would like to share with our participants. So you will be able to view the sessions for the next 90 days If you signed up for CEUs and or for certificates of attendance, those will be automatically mailed to you at the end of the 90-day period. So keep watching those sessions, and at the end, it will all be calculated and it will come out to you. And again, our sincere wish is that each of you walks away filled with hope. Hope for all that's possible, and hope that as we work together, we can make a difference in our community for people who live on the autism spectrum and their family. On behalf of the conference committee, the university, our president, provost, our dean, our collaboration with All One Foundation, our sponsors, we just want to say thank you very much for being a part of this day. Next year, as I mentioned, is our 20th anniversary, and we hope that you will join us for that as well. So for now, again, stay safe, be well, and thank you for participating in our conference.